We must develop a global internet-based education system. Rupert Wegerif. How can the professional development of teachers be improved to create a more qualified educational environment in the context of the future of digital education? I'm very interested in the exciting ideas that are coming up here, and the new Digital Education Futures initiative at Cambridge is also intended to research these questions. I've been in the field of education for about 30 years now. I think we failed early on by being a bit too enthusiastic about solutions, thinking we knew all the answers without properly researching them, by which I mean employing design-based research, so we could explore the consequences. So my first answer to you, in keeping with Socrates, is that we don't really know, but we need to find out. We need to do some serious research to provide evidence of the often unexpected impacts for policymakers. As part of our research on professional development, what we're trying to do in the Digital Education Futures initiative in Cambridge is to explore the new possibilities of education that are only possible now because of new technologies like the internet, the sort of new possibilities that Tony Wagner was talking about, which I would see in terms of affordances. So they don't determine what you do, but they make some things easier than they were before. In particular, what excites me is the potential of the internet for new technologies to support peer-to-peer learning and a global context for education. And this applies not for only students, it also applies for teachers. So what we're creating is a global platform for teachers to share their own research, building on the success of lesson studies in Japan and other countries. It's an approach where teachers are actively empowered to ask questions about the best ways to teach with new technologies. For example, to investigate those questions together and then to share with other teachers in their own schools, but also globally. In this way, we can learn from teachers in Japan, from teachers in China, and we're developing this platform now with funding and support from various sponsors. So watch this space and we'll see if we can develop a new kind of teacher-to-teacher professional development, because teachers really trust each other. At the same time, we can develop systems if we have a large community of people researching things which will evaluate the best and most exciting new practices. And so this will be flexible. It will be about joining a community of practice that could be global. I mean, obviously it could be local, as well as some teaching issues are pretty local. But overall, we've said that in this way we could transform professional development for the digital age. How can dialogic pedagogy be used more effectively in learning and teaching processes to restructure education in the digitalization process? Knowledge is being constructed all the time. I'd better start a bit on what we mean by dialogic pedagogy. It builds very much on what Tony was saying. In a way, it's about the skill of asking good questions. The idea that what we think of as knowledge is not actually a fixed thing. It's always an answer to questions what we ask, and we ask those questions in dialogues. In dialogue with each other, in dialogue with scientific communities, but also in a sense, in dialogue with nature. We ask nature questions, and we only get answers in relation to those questions. So, dialogic pedagogy is about two main things. First, it's about teaching young people and students how to engage in learning through dialogue, how to ask good questions, how to become better at learning together through dialogues. But also, I think it's about joining what I call long-term dialogues of culture, which are also global dialogues. Now, in a way, we've always been doing that. If you looked at what education was supposed to be about when you learned science, you learned about Galileo, and you learned about the various great features of the past. But it's cut through the print-based educational approach, which feels often as if it is just a transmission of a fixed body of knowledge, whereas now, with the internet, knowledge is being constructed all the time. As was mentioned before by Tony Wagner, I didn't know that they've added to the periodic table just recently. So there's not much point in simply transmitting the knowledge of the past. What you have to do is equip students to be able to join dynamic, living dialogues that are occurring now on the internet. And that's not just about abstract knowledge. It's not just a study about what the professor wants, which is a real problem with education. You'll find this in every area. I have students working in rural Kenya with agricultural knowledge, where people are sharing their practices together using smart mobile phones and gathering in communities around one phone. So education is joining a living network, it's joining a dialogue where you're empowered to participate. I think this dialogic model of education is very relevant to affordances of the internet age and is also a way of transforming it. What I would suggest, because the question is how it can be used more effectively, is that we start off with one of the things we teach early on, being how to engage and learn together with others online with technology as well. Using the digital technologies should be one of the core skills. Using the internet should be one of the core skills as well as literacy and numeracy. We should teach learning together with others, and then we can join many learning communities online. There are an infinite number of possible communities that we could join supported by open education sources. I think we are in a time of transition. We are moving from a pretty coherent global print-based education system towards some new point in the future. We should be developing a coherent global internet-based education system that will be based on a dialogue. Dialogue is more than knowledge, it's about relationships. There was a claim that the aim of education is goodness and wisdom, and I think dialogic education is partly about restoring that vision. Ultimately, we are dealing in relationships with others around the world. Obviously, knowledge is part of that, but it's about building a larger community. And ultimately, it's kind of a relationship with the cosmos. Cosmos is a Greek word sort of meaning everything we know. Through education, we're drawn into this relationship with everything. We're expanding the dialogic space, bringing more things into the dialogue, and that, I think, is the essence of wisdom. The essence of wisdom is seeing things from multiple perspectives, having multiple ways of seeing, and that's why I think this is so relevant for the internet age.